Welcome to Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm Nikhil Vaish, your host, founder, and CEO of BoostSolo. And I'm really excited to have with me Sara Quintero today, founder and CEO of Karma Chic Marketplace. She's a serial entrepreneur with a passion for empowering women and turning bold ideas into thriving ventures, all while juggling a full-time corporate role. So Sara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure. So let me start right away by asking you, what was the spark that ignited your passion for entrepreneurship, and how did that evolve into the creation of Karma Chic?
Well, that's actually kind of a funny question. I think that I've always had a passion for entrepreneurship since I was little. I started a babysitting club when I think I was 12, and I made cards to pass out to all my parents' friends. So, and then that, I guess, developed more when I went to Florida State. I studied fashion merchandise with the end goal of one day coming back to Tampa. I'm from Tampa, Florida, and opening up my own boutique. And so I studied fashion merchandise up there. Then I ended up moving back here in 2014. I always remembered that goal that I had and as a little girl and wanted to be a business owner. So I opened up my own brick and mortar upscale consignment shop in 2014. And then unfortunately, my business just could not compete with online business, e-commerce. So I ended up shutting down my doors in January of 2018 with the end goal of wanting to go online. Um, I actually I thought about it. I wanted to do a multi-vendor marketplace to carry like local artisans and products that I had carried in my store. So just time happened and life and the pandemic, and I put it on the back burner. And then all of a sudden, 2023, after working at my startup tech company that I do full time, I thought, now's the time. I mean, that little bird was always in my ear saying, okay, you've always wanted to do this. You shut down that business. Yes, so I felt kind of like a failure, but then I feel like now I learned so much from doing that. And so I decided to, in 2013, to go with it. And so I rebranded Karma Chic because my original store was Sarah's Karma Chic Boutique, rebranded Karma Chic Marketplace. And I just went full force in January. And just now I'm here. And I created the online marketplace for women entrepreneurs for their businesses. And now I'm here.
That's great. So it sounds like entrepreneurship is in your DNA because you started out very early on,
Mhm.
and it was just sort of a seed waiting to sprout, if you like.
Yes.
So you mentioned something interesting, which is that you sort of your first encounter during the transition was you had a brick and mortar store, and then
Yes.
you shifted to an online marketplace.
Hmm.
And that's a pretty big shift, right? Could you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you encountered in that transition, and also how you reconnected your brand with your audience online?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had my brick and mortar, I did all my social media and I self taught myself how to do my own web design. I've always been actually kind of technologically like good. So I thought, and so I just thought, all right, let me do my due diligence. Obviously, I didn't have a huge amount of capital to just, invest in the platform that I wanted. So I was self teaching the whole time and doing my own marketing, my own branding. And so when I tabled that, put it to the back burner. Um, After obviously 4 years had, gone by, 6 years, and technology has changed so much and it's so much easier. So I circle back. I'm like, all right, let me go back to the idea. It's not as easy or it's not as hard. I don't have to go basic like WordPress or spend thousands of dollars of a developer like I used to. So it's just so much easier now. And then I did think, should I change the name if I'm going to do this marketplace? And then I went back to, all right, I worked so hard for Sarah's Karma Chic Boutique. And it was so heartbreaking when I had to shut my door. And so many people were like, oh, we miss your store. We wish, they'll call me. I wish I had Karma Chic to go to. And so I thought, all right, I worked so hard and I did that. I'm just gonna rebrand it and do Karma Chic, drop Sarah's and boutique and marketplace. And so that's kind of how it's gone full circle from where it was to where I am now.
Okay, so it sounds like you still have fans who remember the original iteration of it that
Yes.
can now find you online. That's awesome.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about, so you are balancing a corporate role at Homey, right? And
Yes.
you're running your own business. So could
Mhm.
you talk about, so two parts to this question. How would you say there are aspects of your corporate experience that have influenced how you approached building your brand and Karma Chic? And how do you balance the two roles?
Well, I would say yes, there has. My CEO of Homey is amazing. Um, and all actually a C-suite. They've known since I was hired, I let them know I have this idea that I think I want to bring back. So I just want to let you know. So I was transparent with them. They're like, all right, that's not a direct competition with what we do. It's an insurtech company. And obviously, I was there a year before I brought this back. But seeing how successful my CEO at Homey has been from where Doug Slater, he's the CEO, started into what he's built to now, kind of was like, oh my gosh, like I could do this. And so that's kind of one aspect too that kicked me in the right direction to bring it back, is just in all of everything that Homies has accomplished. And then
Right.
what was your second question?
Well, so the second question is more about how you manage both things, right? Because they feel
Okay.
like two
Yes.
full-time jobs. Yeah.
Lots of early mornings and weekends. So I get up every day about 4:30, 5. I'm at the gym. I take some quiet time, plan out what I have to do for the day. I'm in the gym every day at 6 o'clock. And then I do get what I have to get done for my personal business at that time. And then I'm logged on to work, obviously, during the day, during the work hours, and I'm 100% focused during those hours to Homey. And then after hours, then it's back to if I have anything, or if I have to meet with a developer then, or I'm taking some continuing education schoolwork right now. And so I do the schoolwork after hours. And then on the weekends, I spend a lot of weekends just, taking time. Usually Friday, I'm wiped, completely wiped. And then Saturday is with family time. My kids are older now, which makes it a lot easier. And then Sunday is I do work and or my Karma Chic and schoolwork. And then I prepare for the week and I start it all over again.
Do you sleep?
Barely.
I
And
can
then, of course, as you know, as an entrepreneur, it is sometimes up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you can't sleep and you're thinking about, oh my gosh, what do I have to do? And this, that, and the other. So, but it's well worth it. I mean, just from seeing when I decided to bring Karma Chic back in December actually of 2023, and then really full force to the steps and everything and the goals that I set is completely 100% worth it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. There's a lot of joy when you talk about it, and that
Mhm.
comes through. So I want to touch on something you said a few minutes ago. So, what was the gap between closing the physical store and starting was it about 5, 6 years? I didn't quite.
Yes, it was. I shut down in 2018 January, and then I brought it back in December of 2023.
2023.
So
Okay,
five. I
and
say
you
four or
said some.
five.
Right, and maybe I got this wrong, but it sounded almost to me like you said things had become a little easier in terms of the shifts in technology and the
Absolutely.
ability to build things versus when you did it the first time around.
Yes. And obviously, much more knowledgeable, and I work for a startup tech company as well. So,
Right.
and I do have, um, kind of access to other resources that I don't think other, people that don't work in the technology industry have as well.
Okay. Yeah. And so can you talk about some of those lessons that you learned that both at the startup and maybe at Homey that you've applied to the Karma Chic Marketplace?
I would just say, really, going back to what I said before of just being in awe of seeing how far Homey has come in the past 2 years of me just working there, and of
Yeah.
all the pivots that we've made and all the growth and all the changes and all the challenges we've had. So it's almost like it got me excited, and it also prepared me. There are going to be bumps in the road. There's not, if not, everything is perfect. It's not going to be seamless. But look at the success where we were at compared to where you started 2 years ago.
Yeah. And so can you talk about some of those bumps you've had in the road this time around?
Oh,
Huh. Uh,
well, obviously, it is, formulating the integration, well, getting the correct developer, then getting the integrations that I want, then getting how the front end I want. And then obviously I gave myself some time frames, and then anybody that's in technology knows that's doesn't really happen. You have like
right.
all, hands on deck, which it's me. So doing this while I have a startup, and with I'm fully funding this myself this time. I am married, but I told my husband if I'm doing this again, because he helped me last time, and we did it. We did it. And I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm gonna, see what I can do. It's fully me. So it's only me, and it's only my capital that I'm investing. It's only the resources. And so kind of those really are the main bumps. But I've been very lucky in the past 3 months, or 3 weeks ago, I had somebody, a good friend of mine, come to me that wanted to partner with me because he actually has been kind of on my advisory board for the past year. He's in technology as well. And I've been talking about this actually for a few years now, talking about this idea. And he's the one who told me back in December, just do it. Just, you've been talking about this for years. Why don't you just do it? So I was very lucky that he jumped on board with me 3 weeks ago. So it's definitely going to accelerate now that I have a partner who also is going to be as invested. I wouldn't say as invested because that's all me, but like somewhat invested
Yeah.
and to help me get to the next level.
Yeah, that's really helpful because I think one of the things as solopreneurs, and I've experienced that too, is it's a very lonely journey, right? And we're
Yes.
sort of stuck in our own head. So it's nice to have people who are sort of supportive or even helpful along the way. So can I ask you why that was so important to you to do this yourself this time around?
I think it's more to prove to myself that I could do it, and that because I was really, really hard on myself. There was a lot of different variables that did occur. So I have to look at that as well. I lost a dear friend of mine in 2016 that used to help me at the store. And then 2017, and I rebranded. And then we had like a mini hurricane that didn't hit Tampa. So I didn't get business for 3 months. And it was just one thing after another. And it was just so hard. And then I was like, okay, and I just felt like I said earlier, kind of a failure. And I was really more so hard on myself, and that my husband did help me with the financials and this. So I wanted to, when I decided this again, I think it was more to prove to myself and to everyone that I can do this. and I'm going to do it, and it's going to be successful, and it's going to be 100% me.
That's great. And I totally relate to that because I think that is a very much a sort of a thread in the solopreneurial sort of mind space and drive, right?
Yes.
So I get that. So now, can I ask you, your ventures seem to be centered around empowering women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Now, how has your personal story sort of influenced your brand and this mission in particular?
It's twofold. I think a lot of women are afraid to get into this space. And so I wanted to provide a community and say, hey, look, you can do this. And here you go. Here's resources. Here's other women entrepreneurs that have gone through. And that is why telling a story, which is YouTube capability in my on my site, is so important to me. That is one thing that I had my developer make sure of, is that every time somebody clicks into one of the businesses, they're going to have their story on there, whatever either it's their story, or if it's their background, or just about their business, whatever they want. I want that somebody else to see that so they can promote it and promote and be so excited, and because it's a lot, and they need to be celebrated. Like, we need to be celebrated. Everybody needs to be celebrated that wants to start a business. So that was really important to me. And then the other part of it is that when I had my brick and mortar, I had some women in there that were local artisans that would do pop-up stores, that, like, I had one that sold candles, made jewelry, made body butter, but they weren't, tech savvy. So I wanted to
Hmm.
offer a platform where it makes it easy for them. Here you go. Here's a way you can sell your products or just market your business, whatever. So I am sure that it's going to be very simple if you jump on board, and then it's just all cross promotion. So those two are the main reasons why I did it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you're very right. I think the pandemic was sort of a wake up call for a lot of brick and mortar, right? That
Yes,
and it's a very different skill set to be able to sell online and be able to sort of thrive online, right? I mean, not just the technical piece, but also in terms of the way you approach that. You can't just think of it as brick and mortar. So
no, and it's a lot. And I think, going back to all of my experiences, I put them all together and I was like, all right, I have my brick and mortar. Now I work for a startup company. I did my research, I did my branding. So all of those pieces have come together for me to help others, and to give them a space, because I'm taking from what I learned and to help others, and to so they can promote their business, because it's not easy and it's a lot.
yeah, no, buying is easy, selling is hard.
Yeah,
I
yes,
totally agree.
yes,
And also, I love that you've actually walked in their shoes, right? So there's an
yes,
authenticity there versus just somebody coming out randomly and saying, hey, we're going to offer you an online marketplace. You know the trials and the struggles of,
exactly. And that's
yeah,
another aspect too, is that I can be 100% authentic because I had the struggle. The struggle was real. So, it's not me coming to say, here you go, sell or market on my platform. No, I've been there. So I get it.
yeah, no, and you're on the same journey as them. So that really helps, I think. So let me ask you now, what has been the most unexpected challenge you've faced with growing Karma Chic Marketplace? And how did you overcome it, or how are you working on it if it's
To be
current?
honest,
Yeah,
having a full-time job
is
doing
well,
during it,
right.
because there were some days I'm on the tail end of, I have my MVP. So, but when I didn't during the summer and I was working, and then I was so exhausted and so tired and so grumpy, because I'm like, "Uh, I'm doing this, but I knew I had to be show up at homey 100%. So, and it was so frustrating at times, because I was like, I could use these hours right now to be, focusing on this, but I'm like, but I couldn't. So, and that was probably the most, frustrating. But now everything's worked out. So,
Yeah, I'm still in awe of how you're doing that. I mean, it's hard enough to do a side hustle while you're working full time, but to do a full hustle is pretty amazing and
Yes.
have a family.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, my hat's off to you, Sarah.
Thank
Um,
you.
so let me ask you now. So, how is your approach to brand building and storytelling? You mentioned storytelling being a really important aspect of the platform. Do you
Yes.
feel that has evolved over across your multiple ventures, and also any lessons that you sort of carried forward from the old Karma Chic to the new digital landscape?
Yes. I will tell you 100%. When I had my boutique originally, I had imposter syndrome, hands down. I did not feel like I deserved to be in that space. I felt like um, it made me uncomfortable actually. And I remember one of my dear friends, she's an amazing entrepreneur. She would always tell me, why do you always say they or put we on there when you're doing a post or you're sending out a newsletter? And I'm like, because I don't want the focus on me. She's like, but it's you. You've done this. And I was like, okay. And it really made me uncomfortable. And now that that terminology is totally coming to fruition, I learned I'm not going to have that. And I went through it, and it's not fair. It's not fair for me, and it's not fair for all the hard work I did and put in, because it should be celebrated. And so that's kind of the number one lesson that I learned from prior to what I'm not going to do and be afraid to now what I'm going to do, and put it out there and help, blast other women's businesses. I mean, my ultimate goal is to have a podcast like this or YouTube. I do have the YouTube channel, but to interview the women businesses as I grow, and so we can show them their story, not just when somebody clicks on the link on the site. So
Yeah, no, I love that. And you actually touched on something, because that's something, solopreneurs need to understand and I think get past is, as a solopreneur, you are the brand, right?
yes,
So you have to let your authentic self shine through, and all of it. You have to sort of stand there and allow the world to see yourself, which is a hard thing to do. I'm going through the same thing myself right now as I
yep,
work with BoostSolo. So there's something else that you had mentioned when we chatted, I think, was that you blend creativity and data driven decision making.
yes.
So can you give me an example of how you've used maybe analytics to inform some of your creative choices and how it's sort of benefited your business?
I would say, well, I am a huge researcher. So I'm constantly looking up, and like I'm taking that course right now for the digital marketing course. I'm constantly looking at new avenues of what could benefit, branding, or outside of the analytics that we have, the day to day, like Google Analytics, which, that's, I'm going to offer that to the businesses from the dashboard. But I want to you know, think outside of the box. And so I'm
Yeah.
constantly looking at that and researching, reading books and taking courses, or looking at what somebody's doing successful, and just kind of, emulating, not just, copying somebody, but just seeing what they're doing, and like, how could that be beneficial to my business? How could it be beneficial for the women businesses that, chose to be on my site?
Oh, I lost your audio there. Are you
Are we
there?
here?
Yeah, I lost your audio. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So you finished your answer, right? I didn't hear the last
Yes,
part, but I think you
I
did.
did.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, so you touched on something else, which I think is really interesting for solopreneurs, is this idea that I've noticed is, they don't typically see obstacles, but they see learning opportunities, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like every time you come across something, you just want to go learn more or figure it out yourself,
Yes.
rather than, say, oh, it's a problem, or go find somebody. So could I ask you if the course you're doing right now, is that related to Karma Chic, or is that a totally different skill set you're learning?
No, actually, it is. It ultimately it will benefit. It's the USF digital marketing course. It's a 10-week certificate course, and I'm on the 10th week, so I should have it. Yeah, I saw it come through. Obviously, we know what happens when you're searching, and so
Yeah.
it was it popped up 10 weeks ago, and I was like, this is interesting. And each week I've learned a different, skill set. Like learned how to be HubSpot certified. I mean, I've used HubSpot. We use HubSpot with my business or with Homey, but I didn't know how much intricate, parts that it could help me, obviously, and my business. So I'm constantly looking at different exciting and new resources.
And I just realized that's sort of like a fourth temporary job that you have
Oh,
right
yes.
now that we didn't even touch on.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, my kids are older. Now I can
Yeah.
go back to, because they were in sports, and like my daughter was in all-star cheer and my son was in travel baseball. And now that they're older, I can go back to being this entrepreneur again.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. I mean, and you love what you do, and it's not
Yes.
like, it doesn't feel like you're carrying a weight, even though
No.
it's pretty amazing how you manage to do it also.
Thank you.
So let me ask you now, so the online e-commerce marketplace is pretty crowded. There are a lot of competitors, right?
Yes.
So how do you set Karma Chic apart, and how do you communicate your brand's unique value proposition to both sellers and buyers, right? Because you need to sort of have the chicken and the egg.
Okay. Well, to be honest, I wasn't fully 100% ready to go live, but a local newscaster has been following me on social media, and she reached out to me about a month and a half ago because I had my back door, making iterations, but I was building up the excitement, and I had my first couple of vendors on there. But she reached out to me and said, I want you to, can you be on air? I love your story. And I was like, I'm not even live yet. And so I had to really do some last minute pushes, and my developer the night before it aired was doing some changes. I mean, so it's not fully 100 at where I wanted to be, and I'm still working on it. But what I'm gonna do is I have a whole, social media campaign that I have formulated, and just onboarding and whatnot. But that will come once I get it to really kind of where I want it to be, more so than now. I mean, it's beautiful now, but it is really an MVP. So I was never going to say no. I don't want to be interviewed on, Bloom Live TV. So I did that, and now I'm just going for it.
Well, power to you, Sarah, because a lot of
Thank
people
you.
might have just chickened out and said, I'm not ready and I needed to be better, but you took the leap,
No.
and I believe the net will appear.
Thank you. I was really nervous too that the first time. And then I think when you reached out to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this has gone from this to this to this. I mean, it's really exciting. And I definitely, I'm so thankful that I am that you found me, that the word is getting out there. And this is before I'm at 100% of where I want to be. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. And that's, I think, the best way, right? To be discovered, to have people coming to you and saying, hey, we want you to go live. And also the person, the ex business partner or something you mentioned who wanted to partner with you now
Yes.
also approached you. So obviously you're doing a lot of things right.
Something right.
Because that doesn't happen otherwise. But no, it's great, and it's all learning, right? I mean, we have to sort of, you have to stumble your way through
Yes.
a launch. We're all in beta mode for the initial phase, so I think it'll be
We
great.
are. And I will, circling back to imposter syndrome, I would have never done an interview like this 6 years ago. Absolutely not. I was terrified. And to have a camera in front of me, it gave me anxiety. I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, okay, that's ridiculous. I'm just going to do it. So here I am.
I love it, and I'll confess that I'm an introvert, and a year ago I would not have done a podcast. So
Well,
I'm also putting myself out
congratulations.
there.
We're in it together.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a mutual support group.
Yes.
So let me ask you, what are your long-term goals? I know you're in beta mode, you're sort of coming out now, but
Yes.
what are your long-term goals for Karma Chic? And are there any like specific features or initiatives that you're excited about that you want to share with our listeners? And maybe you're not ready to, and that's okay too.
Yeah, actually, my next iteration, what they're working on right now, is that I'm going to have the vendors to be geolocation specific. I have wanted that from day one. Obviously, you know how iterations are into what they have to put in place. So that's coming. Um, as of right now, if you log on, you can see that there is one vendor that is connected to Tampa because I want to grow outside of Tampa. Obviously, that's where I'm starting, but I want to grow this nationwide. So, and then when you go on, I want to have it to either you shop or, you say, hey, I want to buy something from Dallas, or I want to, I'm shopping here. I'm in this city. So my vendors are soon going to be geolocation specific. So that's the most exciting aspect. And that's something I had when 6 years ago when I came up with when wanting to do this. So that is coming, and then obviously just the growth and to see all the businesses that are gonna get on board.
That's great, and I love that you're going to go national, and then hope. Well, I hope
Global.
international too. Yeah, I know there's so much opportunity, and I think women are underrepresented on the
Thank
e-commerce
you.
platform, so landscape. So now let me ask you touch on an even longer term question, right? So as someone who's launched multiple ventures and you aimed at supporting women in business, what's the lasting impact you hope to have through your work, and also how does this align with sort of the legacy you want to leave behind? If you've thought about that.
I would say really to give somebody the confidence to do this or to go after their dream, or they ever had an idea, try it, go for it. And you can see, because I think you and I discussed last week, people see all the shiny and it's oh my gosh, they're so lucky, and oh, they have probably had an investor. People don't see what we do, like, so I want it to be real as well. So no, it's gonna take work. It is hard work, but the end goal is great if you get there and you want to do it and you always had to do it. So don't be afraid. And that's kind of the legacy that I want to, is just to help other women and, you know, independent businesses say, oh my gosh, she did it. She did it. I can do it. So,
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That's a noble mission. And also, I always say that, as a solopreneur, I have angels and I have truth tellers. And it
yes,
looks like you're an angel because you need the angels who sort of give you that little kick in the
yes.
back and say, go on out there. You can do this, right? No matter what happens, I'm here to support you. And I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's what has been probably the in my ear is the angel for the past 6 years. You need to do this. You need to do this. Why don't you do this? When I've been running or just walking or deep thought. What are you doing? You need to do this. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, and you did, and your angels also came forward, right? In the news, the newscaster and the
Yes,
person who wants to partner
you.
with you. And well, I didn't count myself, but yes, absolutely. So, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that we haven't covered?
Yeah, well, I say no, but yes. If you um are thinking about going after your dream or going into business or be an entrepreneur or whatever you're feeling doing, just do it. Um, I hate to say life's too short, but I would say life's too precious not to go after your dreams.
Yeah, I think that's great. And you might have jumped my last question, but or maybe not. So, if you could offer one piece of advice to someone who's wanting to start this journey, what would you say to them? And you might just say what you just said, but
Yeah. Into entrepreneurship or
yeah,
into owning a
so,
platform, just go for it.
solopreneurship,
Like
solopreneurship. Yeah,
Nike, just do it.
yeah, yeah. I agree. And you will figure it out as you go along, right?
Mhm. And one last thing, that
Yeah.
we're not alone. That's another aspect, is that there is a community out there, and I think it's so huge right now. Um, that I'm seeing is that it is community, and there are so many people out there that wanting to support. Because I think that that's why individuals get scared as well as competition, or what are people going to think of me. But which I think is great. I mean, it's great right now with everybody being supportive.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it is a lonely journey, but as you said, I've also discovered there are a lot of us out there, right? And that was
Yes.
the reason I wanted to do this too, is to let people know that, we are alone, but we are many. So,
Yep.
okay. So I like to end the podcast usually with a quick rapid fire round. So whatever comes to your mind, just throw out the answer.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, you ready? Okay.
Let's see if I can do this.
Yeah, yeah,
It's been
absolutely.
a long day. You know, I've been up since
Oh, I know.
4.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Uh, okay. So this is the last piece of work. Hopefully, this will be a fun way to end your day.
Okay.
So, if you could collaborate with any female entrepreneur, past or present, who would it be and why?
Sarah Blakely, because she's amazing. She went to Florida State University. She's from my area, and I just think she's a badass. Are we allowed to cuss?
Well, I hope she listens to this podcast. What's the one piece of advice you wish you had received when you first started your entrepreneurial journey?
Way back when,
Yeah.
or circling back, I would say don't have imposter syndrome.
Okay. And if Karma Chic Marketplace had a theme song, what would it be and why?
All I want, what, how's it go? All I do is win.
I
DJ
love
Khaled. I mean, because it starts from, okay, not just, oh yeah, all I do is win. You put in the time, you put in this, and then all I do is win, win, win. That's it.
That's great. That's great. I love that. What's the most unexpected lesson you've learned from running an online marketplace?
I would say the iterations. I kind of
Okay.
knew, but yes or no, yes and no, because I want sometimes things yesterday. And obviously, I know in technology you can't. And I want things the way I want them to be. And so I would say that's probably the biggest
Okay.
unexpectation.
Lesson. So, what's your go-to strategy for bouncing back from a tough day as a solopreneur? And this will be a good nugget for people because your day is tougher than most.
Oh my gosh. I would say getting rest. I mean, during the day, if I've had a long week, to be honest, I will give myself time on a Friday night or Saturday to not do anything. And so, and then I'll just like rest, because you have a lot of people have the guilt. Oh my gosh, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I won't feel guilty. I'll just lay in my bed and just like, all right, it's time to reboot and to get back, centered again and to chill.
I think that's great advice because you're right. With as a solopreneur, that you have to draw your own boundaries, right? Otherwise, there are none.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the brain needs to recharge. I mean, it's an organ, I know, but
Definitely.
it operates like a muscle. So, okay,
Yep.
that's awesome. I love that piece of advice. It's a great way to end. So, Tara, thank you so much for being on the show, and I've really
Thank
enjoyed our
you.
conversation.
It's been fun.